Welcome to Third Eye Champagne. I'm Kirsten, Langston, author and intuitive. I have a guest with me today. Guys, this is Debbie. Debbie, I don't want to murder your last name. It's Loshbao. Am I saying it right?
Losh,
Loshbao?
Losh, when the bow breaks,
Okay,
Losh bow.
Loshbao. Okay, so this is Debbie Loshbao. She is an amazing healer. I got to tell you guys there's a little backstory here as to why Debbie's with us. So, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, I've been going through a lot of physical health challenges. And then, in addition to that, one day I was doing a live stream and my guys hopped in and they said, tell everybody about the weird brain fog thing that's going on with you. And I don't like to disclose those kinds of things to the public. It's nobody's business. You know, I'm very, very private. I say this all the time, but the guys are really pushy. Like, tell them what's going on. Tell them about the energy. Tell them about this, this onslaught you had. And so I did. And the guys were right as usual. So I get an email from Debbie and she says, I took a look at it and I cleared some stuff and it was okay for me to clear it, because Debbie, she doesn't just do stuff. We know this. She checks with your higher self and there are certain things that she's allowed to clear without, asking you for personal permission. This stuff that attacked me was so nasty that she was able to clear it. Um, so Debbie and I began a correspondence that way. And then she offered me a session with her in, over Zoom. And I said, oh, yes, please. So we had this session, and you guys, my mind was blown. Now, I go to, like, I don't want to say a lot of healers, but I like to try different modalities. I try different healers. And Debbie is one of the best I've ever seen. No shit, no joke. She's one of the
Mm.
best I've ever seen. She's one of the best I've ever worked with. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Debbie. Say hello.
Hi.
Um, I want to talk to you today about what it is you do, why you do it, and how you got started doing it, and how it helps people. So, let's start with how you got into this.
Yeah, it's quite a little story. I was in IT for 30 years. So I was a senior business analyst doing computer work. And about, well, in 1995, I went to massage school, Atlanta School of Massage, which is one of the top ones in the country. I never ever intend to do it full time because I know it's a high burnout profession. And I did do it on the side, and I still burned out. But the way I got there was when I used to drink, I would walk around the bar rubbing everybody's shoulders and getting free drinks, right? And and people were saying, you're actually really good at this. You should go learn. And so I went to school and then continued to do my full-time IT job. And then I turned 50, um, and my mom wanted to give me a gift. She wanted to send me, she loves to travel. I do not love to travel, but she's like, go somewhere, go somewhere. So I said, fine, send me to the Louise Hay I Can Do It conference in Tampa. And so
Mm.
I went down there. I got the extra ticket. So I got to go to, instead of just the weekend, the full week thing. I went to see Colette Baron Reed. I went to, I had signed up for, and I saw the Law of Attraction people. I can't think of her name right now, Esther Hicks.
Oh, Esther
And
Hicks. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was here at that time. So on like the last day before the weekend, I had signed up for, I had done the morning session. And then I had a friend in Tampa that I hadn't seen in a long time. Now she's a medical intuitive. She can read down to what your DNA is saying. She's an Edgar Casey level.
Wow.
And I hadn't seen her in years. And so I said, let's go have lunch. We went to lunch and she said, who are you seeing after lunch? And I said, Brian Weiss, I think is his name, the past lives guy.
Yeah, past life guy, yeah. Oh, you've seen
Yeah.
all the big heavy hitters, the big names.
Well, with at a Louise Hay conference, that's what you get.
Yeah.
And so she said, he does great work and that's great stuff, but you're in a room with 100 other people. She
Mhm.
said, don't go too deep. And I just kind of took that as a sign that, maybe that wasn't the best choice. So I went back and I scratched that off the list. And then I didn't know what to do because I hadn't heard of anybody else that was doing a seminar that afternoon. So I saw Dr. Darren Wiseman, Infinite Love and Gratitude. And I thought, I could use some infinite love and gratitude. So I went and did that. And I sat in there for 2 hours, and he didn't do anything really relevant to me, but I sat in there and I cried for 2 hours
Wow.
for no known reason. And
Mm,
then when I left there, I had to sit on a bench for 2 hours because I just was wiped. And I was like, I don't know what just happened or what that was, but it's something I'm supposed to be doing. So I went up and immediately signed up for his classes. And it was a series of 3 weekends, and it was tough. I mean, there was a an exam that took hours, and then you had to do a verbal. I mean, he's really serious about it. And so I got certified in that, and life goes on. I'm doing stuff on the side. I'm still at my IT job. 2010 comes along, and um, I get laid off. Now, this was the only way I would ever have left my corporate job, okay?
mhm.
And my job got sent to a country named Mauritius, which I didn't even believe was a country
I agree.
until until the Olympics, and they had 6 athletes, and I went, "Wow, it really is a place." So I got laid off. It took me a year to find, that was 2009 actually. In 2010, it took me a year to find another job. It was a contract in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I lived there not knowing a single soul for a
Mm,
year. And that work lasted a little bit over a year until the contract was up. And then at that time, my parents lived in Huntsville, Alabama, which is about 4 hours from me. And my mom would call and say, "He's dying," um, about my father. And, how do you know? Probably not. But what are you going to do? Say, I'm not
right.
coming? So I kept running up there like every weekend. And it was exhausting. And I'm finally like, I have nothing holding me here in Atlanta. And I have a house here, but I have a roommate and she was going to be here. So I just moved in with my parents in Alabama. And my dad died in 2010. And um, it wasn't, I couldn't get a job while I was there because my whole purpose was to take care of them during the
Right.
day. And they
Right.
were in bed by 6, 7 o'clock at night. So all I did was them. And when he died, I noticed that when I came back home for 4 or 5 days and went back, my mom's brain was slipping because she didn't have the social contact. She had
Mhm.
aphasia. It was hard to find the words and all that. So we got her to move to Atlanta. And she wasn't independent living, but she was very emotionally needy. She still needed a lot of my attention. And there was no way I could have full time work, although, we'd have figured it out if I got it. But this was a time where the job market was
Yeah.
wide open. And I have a resume with 25 years of experience as a senior business analyst. And I couldn't find a job. And I
Wow.
mean, I didn't get one, I probably put up 500 resumes out. I did not get one phone call even. So it was so strange. And I was like, okay, I'm covered, I can eat at mom's house and I have a few clients. And so that's bringing a little money. And I have severance pay from my job ending, so I can pay my bills. But I was like, what gives here? And I kept lowering my standards to find maybe some part-time work. I tried Macy's because I'd done that during Christmas season. Nope. I even tried Starbucks twice, 2 interviews, and I never
Wow.
got a job.
Wow.
And this was spirit tapping me on the shoulder saying, "You asked for a full-time healing practice. You're
Mm,
going to have a full-time healing practice.
mhm.
No work on the side, none of that."
Yep.
And I built up enough to where, I could have enough to pay the bills. And then my mom died in 2016. And there's a whole miraculous story behind what happened after that. But I had a friend, Mandy, and we'd known each other for a while. And I had worked on her, and she started doing autonomic response testing for supplement type things. She does all
Mhm.
your supplements. And she was working with this girl named Karina, who had a remote type clinic. Okay. And everybody who worked for her in the healing arts did remote sessions. And she introduced me, and this went on for a few months. Karina's a little bit ADHD, so it took a minute to get us together. But we finally cut up. Actually, I sent her a text and I said, I'm going to stop bothering you because we can't seem to work it out. And I just sensed that maybe it wasn't what she wanted. And she's like,
Right.
oh, no, no, we'll do it today. And so we got online. I did a session on her. We filmed it. And um, after that, I started working for HH Collective. And I do 5 sessions a day. I give myself 30 minutes between clients, 90 minutes for lunch, and I have to have that.
Yeah.
And she does everything. She does all the scheduling, she does all the billing, she answers all the emails. So all I have to do is show up. And that's
Right.
really the only way that I can do this. And there are remote sessions that I do on the side. I do what's called health chart. It's a list of different modalities that can be run that stems from spiritual response therapy.
Mm.
And I use a pendulum to ask their higher self to do these things on them, which sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, the reviews for these things are like that's the closest I've ever had to spontaneous miraculous healing
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
things like that. And I got a little edgy about it because I'm having like if somebody in the family gets ill, I'll get an order for both the parents and all the kids. And I was like, why aren't these people taking their kids why aren't they going to the doctor? I don't want to be everybody's urgent care.
Right.
And what Karina says was, they go to the doctor and the doctor says, you got a virus. There's nothing we can do. Go home.
Yeah.
Or they can come to you and feel better the next day.
Right.
So those are very popular. I do uh, um, chronic healing for chakras.
Mm.
I, through a series of guidance events, realized that there were 64 chakras. I work in 64 chakras. And then there's a whole bunch of chronic chakras, like hand chakras, every
Yep.
organ, little
Yep.
ones.
Yep. Yep.
And so I do all those, to see what's out of balance and what color of energy it needs and that kind of stuff. I also do probably my most sacred work is Atlas balancing, or it's called Dao sound codes now. And it is a way I do it remotely, and it is a way of moving the atlas into place along with all the spinal vertebrae. And I'm not a chiropractor. I'm not a medical person.
Right.
There's no diagnoses, and chiropractors like to argue with me about this, but it works. It works remotely. It works on the toughest cases,
Mm.
and I think it works because doing it chiropractically, your atlas just can't take that kind of a shock. And this way, it is sound, and you can look up acoustic levitation,
Oh,
and you'll
yeah.
see a drop of water between two sounds, and it just floats. And I
Mhm.
kind of think that's how it works: is it allows the bones to float, and then I
Mm.
can move into place. And this is like once this is in place, for the most part, it never comes out. And if it
Whoa.
does, I do it again for free. Now that doesn't
Wow.
mean you're not going to have, spinal vertebrae subluxate,
Right.
because if they don't, you can break your back. But
Right.
uh, short of falling off a roof, once the atlas is in its proper place, it really doesn't come back out. It's kind of amazing. And like I said, probably the most sacred work that I do. It's really powerful.
Amazing.
So
Oh, I'm gonna have to have you do that because the whole reason with your story, it's so funny because I'm going yes, 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 because it's the same way that I got into the psychic work. Is I had a 3 herniated disc in my neck, and I was same thing, corporate job, and I went on disability. I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything, and eventually the doctors said, listen, you're always going to be injured, you're always going to be in pain, you're always, they had me on Vicodin. You're always going to be on medication. You're never going to work a regular job again. You're going to be on disability the rest of your life. And I was 32 years old.
wow.
Yeah. And so, and same thing with you, though. I was thinking, you're saying this, and I'm going, yep, same here. Because I would have stayed in the same, I would have done corporate stuff, and I probably would have, written on the side, because that's what I was doing. I was writing novels on the side, and I knew the novels would never pay. So this forced me to quit. And I ended up going to that's how I first ended up going to a psychic. I mean, I've always been psychic, and I was, read cards in high school and stuff. Um, but I never went to a psychic. And this guy, actually, the first psychic I went to was Linda Grindle. and she said, "You're gonna be okay." She was funny because she goes, "I don't know how, but you're gonna be okay." And after that, my cousin, who was the most psychic, most amazing psychic person I've ever known in my life. I mean, she never got it wrong. I always say that, 100% of psychics can't get it 100% right 100% of the time, but this lady did. I mean, it was ridiculous. And she gave me some tarot cards and said, "You got to start reading cards again." And I never, so it's funny because our stories are very parallel. I never would have gotten as a business, never, unless I was forced to. So
Right.
so yeah, I'm very curious. We're gonna have to try the I forget what you call it.
Dowta sound codes, or
Yeah,
Alice
I want
balancing
to
as
try
it's
that with the
called.
next step. I'm very curious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what you and I are both proving is if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the universe supports you.
Oh, it does.
Sometimes you have to be grabbed up by the scruff of the neck and dragged, but
You really do. You really do. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think what's really interesting is, especially with what you're telling me, it seems like the path was laid out for you.
right.
You know what I mean? Like it seems like it was just like, nope, this is what you're doing, Debbie. Like this is the way you're going.
Oop, you're off track. Let me pull you back on.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's just I just you're so gifted. You're so incredibly gifted. It's
Well,
just
and you know what I tell people is I'm really not gifted. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars to learn what I know. And the gift I do have is knowing how to put different modalities together. And so that's what that is. I did a bunch of that, starting with the lifeline technique with Dr. Wiseman, and then the pranic healing, and now tulpacan healing by Dr. Karen Can. And I just merge all of that together. And I was like, what do I call this? And it's one of the few times I've heard my guides, and they said energetic fusion. And I
yeah.
was like, oh my God, that's perfect, because it is a fusion of all the energetic techniques that I've learned. So,
That's so essentially, guys, what you're getting from Debbie, you're not going to get anywhere else. This is patented Debbie healing. You can't get it anywhere else.
yeah, and
Um,
I didn't try to make it that way. I've had a couple coaching type people saying, "Oh, you just want to make yourself unique so that, people had to come to you." And I'm like,
no,
"No." It was a matter of I want to give them the very best
yeah,
that is out there, the very best that I can possibly give them every opportunity to heal.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I can feel that about you. It's funny because when you emailed me and you said, I had to get that thing off you, blah blah blah, and I said I got to read on this lady to make sure she's not crazy. Put the
uh,
cards down and I went, "Oh God, no, she's so legit. She's so legit. She's not crazy. She's coming from such a good place." But I still wasn't 100% sure, so I called Eliza from Moon Pluto Astrology, my psychic friend, and I go, "Girl, I need you to read on this lady. I like just tell me what you get." So she says, "Oh my God, she does everything she does with so much love. Like so
oh,
I had to do be a Scorpio and spy on you just a tiny little bit to make
that's
sure."
okay. I
But she
don't blame you. There's some crazies out there, you
There
know.
are. There's some, I've gotten some interesting emails over the years, but
I
Elisa said,
bet.
she said, "This woman does what she does with so much love, and that's why it works."
Oh, that
Yeah,
makes me feel
wasn't that
so
just
good.
beautiful? Wasn't that just beautiful? I went, "Okay,
And
Elisa."
my what do you call it? My principles, for my three top principles for my business, are compassion, integrity, and authenticity.
Yeah,
So that matches.
it shines right through. It shines right through. So essentially, you were always kind of interested in this kind of stuff, right? I mean, nobody goes to Louise Hay by accident.
Right.
So you
Right.
had an interest, but you never thought it was going to be your life's work.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. So you go through for many years, you're going through and you're just learning all these different modalities. Um, can you tell us how, okay. Let me rephrase this. How is it working now? So when you have somebody sit in front of you, do you know what you're going to do already? Or is it kind of um,
Um,
you go through everything or,
well, I have them do what I had you do, which is make a list of at least 15 things
Mhm.
that they want to look at. And then we start, they can either put it in a priority order, or they can let me test which one, according to their higher self, is the most important. And then we work through that. And their consciousness gives me as much as it can for one session,
Mhm.
okay, on one topic. And then that layer is cleared off. And the next time they come back, we work from the same list. There might be things we didn't get to. We can start with those, or we can do another layer of the ones we already did. And each one gets shorter and shorter as there's fewer things to clear. We know it's completely done when I do like if I said I want your liver to function at 100%, if it already did, there wouldn't be anything to come up to clear. So that's how I know when something's done. And frankly, that's the only part I don't like about my work, is that it's layered. And so
Yeah,
you have to keep coming back. I wish I could do it in one or two sessions. And the first question is always, how many sessions? And I'm like,
you don't
I
know.
have no way to answer
Yeah,
that. It depends on your level of trauma, how fast you integrate, and how much is on your list and how deep the stuff is on your list. So I just can't answer that question. So, and then I do, what I did with you, not the session, but before that, is totally not part of my work. It's
right.
the working on the entities and attachments and stuff. So we can talk about what I did there if you want. It's up to
So,
you.
yeah, let's talk about it because I find it very, very interesting. So, disclaimer: if you have this problem that I had, don't go to Debbie because
What?
maybe she can recommend someone else. But this is not her regular job. It's not the regular jobby job. But she's
Well,
been to help me out. So,
yeah, and I do have an attachment clearing as a remote session. And when you see remote on that site, it means you don't talk to a practitioner. We do it. We send you a piece of paper. Or in the case of attachments, everybody's like, well, what were they? Where did they come from? And what did they, why, how did I, and I don't answer any of that because that sucks you into
exactly.
that kind of energy. So sucks the client in. So I clear them and it's done. And most people are like, wow, that feels different, like it
Yeah.
did with you.
Yeah.
But frankly, this is not magic. When I did when you mentioned that on the air, a lot of people were putting in the chat entities, attachments, and they're right.
Mhm.
But it was a little different for you. It was psychic attack. And so
Mhm.
what that means is you get an entity or a few, and they call in all their friends, and they're all attacking you intentionally at once. And that is a little harder because when you're under psychic attack, it messes up my muscle testing. I'm not psychic, I'm muscle testing underneath the screen. And they'll tell me, no, no psychic attack, nothing wrong at all. And I have to twist it around and find different ways of asking. Sometimes I'll just ask, can I run psychic attack? And if I get a yes, that means you needed it.
Right.
And
Right.
so, and then uh, there are recordings now that I do a certain way of pulling attachments off of people that is just the way that came to me. um, I've asked if I'm allowed to teach it to people. I've only been allowed to teach it to two people because I was doing it for them all day long. So they're like, okay, you can teach them. But other than that, these are really recordings that I use. And there's a psychic attack. There's one for negative energies. There's a demon clearing, which I had to run I think 6 hours on you. Maybe it was on the house. I don't remember. And the fact is that that's just the title of it. It doesn't necessarily mean that there were demons. It's that recording that cleared it up. In
Mhm.
your case, you had astral parasites. So your astral body goes way, way out, and you pulled in some astral
Yeah.
parasites. And what's the other thing there's a land and space clearing recording, which is interesting. There's two buildings in the United States left that were built by Thomas Jefferson, and I
Oh,
cleared one of them with that recording. Now, mind you, I had to run it for over 24 hours, and
wow.
the things that were there didn't really like it. There was a flood
Oh my
in the
gosh.
basement. Yeah. So, but I was able to clear it. If you think about something that Thomas Jefferson built, it has Revolutionary War energy in it. It has slave energy in it. It has all kinds of stuff. So
Oh yeah.
it was interesting, but it is possible. And all of those, anybody can purchase. The trick is knowing how to use them. If you are an intuitive, or if you can muscle test, or use a pendulum, you'll know, because you have to have to know which one to run
Mhm.
and how long to run it or how many times to run it. And then like I went from psychic attack to demon clearing to negative entities and back to psychic attack for you. And
Mm,
so I've given you the links where people can purchase those on their own. What you don't want to do is people are like, oh, I'll just turn it on and run it 24 hours a day. No, because if you do that, these beings or whatever they are have a tendency to figure out how to get around it,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, of course, like
So,
anything. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So they don't
No,
have much consciousness and they do have a little bit of intelligence. So,
this it makes sense about my house. It's always been a weird house, and my brother, it's so funny because I used to have my bed against a certain wall, and I couldn't sleep there. And this is back when I was still married, and my husband couldn't sleep there. We could not sleep there. The dog didn't like to sleep there. My brother house sat for us one day and said I couldn't sleep in your bed. So I ended up moving the bed, but I sensed that there was some kind of disturbance in the closet, of all places. And I mean, I had the house cleared a couple of times, but and my neighbors are weird. I also think, the neighbors, there's some stuff coming in from the neighbors' houses. So I'm not
put some
surprised.
salt along the ed borderline of your house and theirs or your
Yeah,
apartment.
I did that. I mean, these people have been to prison for murder and stuff. Like, this
Oh
is
my.
I know. I'm living on a really weird block right now. So yeah, I did that, and I think I need to do it again. But yeah, I'm not surprised you had to clear out the house. The house has always had strange energy, even before I was doing anything psychic in it. It's had strange energy. So
And it's interesting in houses and stuff like that. I don't usually find psychic attack, but there was psychic attack in the house too. So,
I'm not surprised by that.
and people ask me, how does that happen? How do I get them? And the first thing I say is, you can walk in the grocery store and walk out with them, you
Right,
know, just riders hop on you.
right.
Or you're afraid of everything and you're negative and all of that stuff. And I had a friend and she just got attacked all the time. And she's like, they're just after me. And I'm like, no, your mind goes to these places and your vibration goes down, down, down until you match theirs. And
Yeah,
once you match their vibration, they're in. So
yeah.
there's
That's
nothing personal,
right.
you know.
Right. No, that's what I had a Olympia once, and she said to me, because some stuff came back, and she said I had been triggered and I got really depressed for, I mean, maybe only a week, but she was like, but that's enough for crap like that to come to
Exactly.
jump on your back. I mean, that's,
And then
they
there are people like you who are 100% of the light, and that makes you a target. So,
I had a thing, so I actually had a hypnotherapist for this brain fog thing that you're helping me with. I went to a hypnotherapist about it, and she had me under, and she asked me, what's going on, entities. And I said, oh, there's this little thing, and it's a little dark. It showed up as a squiggle, like if a kid took a black crayon, and went like this. And she said, well, what's its name? And I said, I don't know, it's like all consonants, it's like I can't pronounce the name. And she said, well, what is it doing there? And I said, it saw my light. It was in the darkness. It was in the dark, and it saw my light, and it wanted to know what that was. So it came closer and closer, closer to me. And now it revolves around me. And when I get tired, it can get really, really close to me and suck up some of that light. And it wasn't, the funny thing is, under hypnosis, and I had no conscious knowledge of this, I mean, none, I never in a million years would have thought this. But it didn't feel like it was, oh, it was bad and it was mean and evil. It was just like, this poor little thing, it was just out in the dark all cold by itself, and thought, oh, look, there's, that looks warm, like, I'll go over there. So I mean, we got rid of it. But
and,
um
and sometimes that's the case. And sometimes it's, if you have so much light, you are a threat to
yeah,
them.
yes.
So,
Yes, and I've been told that by other readers. I've had readers say that there are always things trying to hold me back. I can't feel it. I mean, as intuitive as I am, I can't feel it, but I've been told that
well, you
before.
can feel it once it gets bad enough because you sure did.
Yeah, yeah. Once it gets bad enough, you sure can. You absolutely can. So, what can people, when they come to a session with you, what can they expect? Can you walk us through it a little bit?
Um, Well, you come in, and most people would ask me to check for attachments on them or in their house, which is fine because, I don't want to do my work while that stuff's going on.
Right.
And we go to their list and we work on this works on everything. It works on whatever you choose. There are a couple things that I don't work with. One of those is cancer.
Mhm,
And the reason is because you can only get to see me like once a month.
mhm.
And cancer is such a long, long process to get through, and it makes it a lot of money. And I just don't think it's ethical for
Yeah.
me to do it. There are, people healers who are good at some things and healers that are not. The other thing is addiction, because I've been
Mhm.
sober for 26 years. I'm a little biased as to what I think people should do, and there's no way that I can make an alcoholic into a social drinker.
Mhm.
And maybe there are other people who can. I'm not the one for that. So, if you have a huge issue like weight or abundance, um, I won't let you, I'll ask you not to do that as a single intention. The bigger the intention, the less I'm going to get. So the more specific you can be, the better. So I used to do a weight loss group. And so I have like 106 things on a list that could be reasons that you're not losing weight. And people come in and say, well, it's my metabolism. I'm like, probably not.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
hard to have any idea what's going on until you hit that list. And the same for abundance. I actually do abundance, 6 months abundance groups, because I have 87 things on the list for abundance. But if they want to do those two topics, I will say, how many minutes do you want to spend on it of your session, 15 minutes or something? Or how many items on the list do you want to do, like the top 5? And then we'll ask their higher selves what the most important item on that list is. So then I set the intention about what we want to work on, clearing all the programs, blocks, interferences, themes, challenges, a lot of the mental stuff, projections, expectations, separations, rejections, judgments, agendas, inventions, and lies, significance, how much significance you've given to something that may not be significant, and the conclusions you've drawn about it. There are, then I will go through um, a lifeline session, sort of every technique I've ever learned. I do a really rogue version of it, or a really rebellious version
Oh, that's me
with the
too. Love
lifeline.
it.
Yeah, I can't do it any other way. I just
Yeah.
can't. And so with the lifeline technique, there's charts of emotions, like that's the fire element, and there are 78 emotions in the fire element.
Wow.
So,
So you're
and there,
you're scanning for a lot of stuff because you're doing that, and then you have the SRT stuff, which I have somebody's going to be explaining that to us on my show. So
cool.
they're going to know what it is when they see this, what SRT is. But it's a lot. Like there's charts and all sorts of
Yeah,
stuff.
there's 32 charts with probably at least a dozen or 2 dozen things on it. And then
Yeah.
Tolkien healing is like 3 different guides,
Wow.
and I've dumbed them down to what can I clear, what can I add, which is really unusual in a healing technique. You don't usually find
Yeah.
things to add, so this is a really good adjunct. And then there's what do I need to know? And that's my favorite, because it's all the weird stuff like, oh, you have 4 higher selves.
Yeah, right.
How's
That's
that
what
work?
came out with me. Yeah, when you were doing the thing with me, it's what do I need to know? And it's so funny because you said, "Oh, it's going to be weird," and I was like, "Oh, yes, okay, great." And then you said, okay, you've got four. It was four like imposter, right?
Yes.
There
Well,
were four.
you had 4, 3 of them were imposters.
Three of them were imposters, and then what's really interesting is you got rid of those, and then four more came right in, or three more came right in.
I have not seen that before.
Yeah,
So yeah,
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 that was really interesting.
you were being fed information that was not yours by things that were acting as your higher self.
Yeah,
So
which
how you
sucks.
held your intuitive with that is extraordinary. I don't know how you did it, but
I don't either.
something's guiding you,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
not letting any of that stuff get in the way.
yeah.
So
Well, and I do wonder about I always, think about my business stuff because I've been having, so much bad luck with that. With I hired the website designer and she ends up swindling
I'm
me.
on my fourth.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like all this crazy stuff and I'm just like, is this like what is, it gets to a point, how we were talking about how, spirit guides you over here. Sometimes this stuff gets to a point where you're like, okay, something else is going on here. It's not just bad luck or bad timing,
Exactly.
there's something else here. And what I think what you do is so interesting because it's so thorough, and it really appeals to me that way.
That's
It's
why I kept adding modalities to
yeah.
energetic fusion, because this one has this and doesn't have this, and there's karmic stuff, there's ancestral stuff, there's interference stuff, which is what we were doing with you. There's, multidimensional stuff if you want to get really weird, and all kinds of stuff. So, and I love every minute of it. I am working with
Well,
a little boy, and his mother and I met because we're both taking a certain training,
mm,
and he is nonverbal autistic, and he's 11, and he communicates through, what's that word, telepathically with his
okay.
mother. And there are those who say that letterboards are bad for autistic kids and you're forcing them to talk. This kid has so much to say, and I
Mm,
mean, he was giving me massive amounts of scientific technical information, and he was telling me about things like, we're going to get really weird here if you want to turn it off.
yeah, I love
Um, and ET parasites,
it.
ET toxins, ET infections. He told me that autism and Alzheimer's are caused by energetic amoeba. And I did a session on a woman with Alzheimer's, and that would be a long drawn out process too. And we cleared the energetic amoeba. And this girl wrote me 2 hours later and said, "My my husband had her out. She came back. She remembered how to use her phone. She remembered how to answer her phone,
Well,
and she did 3 puzzles in a row where I did not have to put the frame together for her." Now,
oh,
like, whoa, I mean, usually there's an integration period, after my work, but
yeah,
sometimes it is instant. So,
yeah.
but what I found out when I started working with him is all this information he was giving me is what was wrong with him. So, so he's taught me so much, and he suffers. This child screams and self harms and does all this stuff every day.
Mm,
I can be his healer. I could not be his mother. It is
yeah,
heartbreaking to
yeah.
see, but he is helping me with new stuff that you have to be open minded to understand. But every time, like I said, if I use an intention and it's not correct, nothing will show up to be cleared, and he's been right every single time. So,
Wow. Wow. Oh, that gave me chills.
yeah.
Oh, wow, that really gives me chills. That's
So,
amazing.
I'm so blessed to be working with this kid. So,
Yeah, that's huge.
yeah.
That's really huge. So have you can you do this on yourself? Have you done this stuff for yourself?
I can, but especially like for the lifeline technique and the emotions and stuff like that that come up there, you have to be in your subconscious mind to be
Mm,
able to process it. Therapy saved my life, but when you're in therapy and you're talking, you're in your conscious mind. So
right.
doing subconscious mind work is, I know, the key to it. And it's kind of hard to be in your conscious mind to ask the questions and in your subconscious to
Yeah,
process it. I can do it. I'm not my best client, so I have some of the best healers on the planet that I know that work with me. So there's that.
that's amazing. What you do is
But I went in. I'm in Dr. Wiseman's first book. I don't remember what it's called now. Probably called Infinite Love and Gratitude. But I'm in there as somebody named Hope because after I learned his technique, I came home and the first thing I worked on was depression because they told me you are never going to get off of meds.
mm,
And I support medication. It saved my life. It can save people's life.
mhm,
I
mhm.
did it the right way. I worked on myself every day, which was you're not supposed to do, but I didn't know. And when there was nothing left to clear, then I started titrating down with my psychiatrist. And I've been hospitalized because I tried to get off my meds.
Mm,
And now I've been off of them for 10 years.
oh my god.
And it's not to say I never get depressed, but
Right,
if I do 3 or 4 days, I can get out of it. I can pull myself out of it.
right.
And like anxiety, panic disorder, that's some of the easiest stuff for me to fix. Migraines is some of the easiest stuff for me to fix. So there's all that.
It's really interesting. I will say I had the most obnoxious anxiety disorder, PTSD, and I don't know how much is left, but I did EMDR for it and I swear by it. I don't know
Yep.
how it works, but I swear by it.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah.
I had a repressed memory of something I went through for 3 years that came up during EMDR.
Mhm.
And I didn't, when it showed up, I was like, "No, that's not true. No way that happened." And I gave 5 or 6 reasons it couldn't. And she's like, "Okay, let's just go with it, see what's next." And I
Right.
couldn't get any further until I, realized that was absolutely the truth. So,
Wow. Wow. So,
and I'm also good with trauma because I don't re-traumatize you.
I was just gonna say that. So yeah, talking about, people that really wanna, work through trauma and work through really difficult things. So it's not like they have to sit there and say, "Oh, okay, Debbie, here's all the horrible things that happened to me, and we're gonna talk about it." No, they just send you the list, and that's it.
And, I will ask, some people want to have it known. I might ask physical, verbal, sexual, what kind. And if they want to tell me who, they can. I'm certainly available and willing to listen, but you don't have to tell the
Right,
story. So,
right, which
and
is
in that
really
case,
good.
I'd set the intention for trauma, for PTSD, for all the projections, expectations, et cetera, that come from the PTSD and from the experience, for all the beliefs and emotions and thoughts you've learned by going through that, all the triggers, all of that stuff.
Right,
So,
like I said, it's incredibly thorough.
yeah.
It's incredibly thorough. How many people do you think you have helped over the years?
Oh my God. I think I think right now I've probably got 600 clients. Not all of them active at the moment, but there's been a lot. Some people don't really want the help. They'll come for a little while and they'll, "Ooh, that's too close." And
Mhm.
and sometimes that's not conscious.
Right.
It's not safe for me to be healed. Who will I be without this?
Mhm.
I've even had past lives between me and the client
Oh, yeah,
that
I believe
that
that, yeah.
create resistance. Yeah. So, and it's all up to them. Uh, you have to be willing to do the work if there is any. I've had I had a really interesting case where I've been working on this girl for a year. She's really sick. She just is not moving at all. And on paper, because I'll measure what's your neurotransmitter system functioning at, et cetera, et cetera. On paper, she's made huge progress and she's not feeling a bit of it.
Wow.
And we were 11 months in before she said, it's a constellation of symptoms. It's everything. And
Mm.
she said to me, "These are exactly the symptoms my mother had before she died of a brain aneurysm."
Oh, boy.
And this was how she was keeping her mother here,
Uh-huh,
was by carrying her symptoms. It was
uh-huh.
really powerful. I sent her to a medium friend of mine. She's like, "Oh my God, I've never had a session where I've talked to her and it was comforting and not traumatizing."
Mm.
And so now everything's shifting. So there's been
Wow,
some amazing stories.
wow. So, oh, man, I just had it in my head and I lost it. I had a really good question. Oh my goodness, Kirsten.
Put it in a pyramid, it'll come right back. Golden pyramid.
Um, it's literally on the tip of my tongue. I hate this. It's literally on the tip of my tongue. Um, okay, well, it'll come back to me, but let
Yep,
me ask this one instead. So does this work on animals? Would you work with animals? Have you?
absolutely.
Okay.
Um, a lot of times there's like aggressive type behavior, and I go for the brain. There's always something off in the brain, or there's trauma, from coming from a puppy mill or a rescue.
Mhm.
Um, and that's actually one of my best testimonials ever. I worked with this family and I've now worked on every single member of the family, and they were not really believers. The wife still isn't, but I can work on her, without her. Um, and they had a border collie that they just adored. And because there's so much fur, they didn't know that there was a mass underneath, and it probably went from the front of the shoulder all the way down to the hip,
Oh,
and
baby.
like this big, this wide. And until they went to the groomer and he got shaved, they didn't know.
Mm.
And fortunately, they lived not far from the University of Georgia. They took him to the University of Georgia, to the veterinary clinic, because their vet sent him there. And they did a biopsy and said, if you get blood in the biopsy, it's probably not a good sign. And they did.
Mm.
And he said, is there anything you can do? And I looked and I pulled, and the guy, the poor baby could not walk. He couldn't see his, put his foot on the ground, and it was painful because that mass had nerves bunched up in it. And he had attachments. And
Mm.
all I did was clear the attachments, which took me minutes. 10 days later, he's back at the University of Georgia Veterinary Center, and they're going, we don't get it. It's completely gone. So,
Amazing. Okay, I remembered my question. It's um when you're working, so say somebody comes to you, but they don't want to hear that there's entities. They don't want to hear that there could be ET stuff. Are they more difficult to work on? I mean, is that somebody you would say, I can't work with you? Or would you say, I will do the best we can? I mean, how open-minded would
um,
you be?
sometimes I just can tell by somebody's mood or their situation that there are attachments. And like I worked on you, I never need permission to remove attachments from somebody because they are never of value to anybody.
Right.
And so in the background, silently, I'll clean them up or start a recording.
Mhm.
Um, I don't generally bring up the ET stuff. I have some clients I know who's open to it and who's not. And I'll just say, oh, parasites
Yeah,
instead of ET parasites, because
yeah.
I'm not trying to lie to them, but they would not be well with it and they're not going to get well unless I clear that stuff up. So,
Right, 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 right,
and so
right,
instead of energetic amoeba, I say, oh, there's an amoeba thing here.
right.
So,
Well, it makes sense to me. I'm sorry, but we all have all these little, things. What are they called? Microbes. Little guys living on the skin. You get all sorts of things living around. Like viruses are living in our bodies all the time. I mean, our bodies are full of them. They just don't do anything. You've got bacteria that are
my
living on
my
us.
teacher calls that us and not us, the
Right.
microbiome, everything that lives on and in us.
Right. So why wouldn't there be energetic? Same thing.
Right.
It's the same
But
concept.
it's just now hitting me. Some of my clients are going to see this and go, what? She does that? And I'm like, all out there. It's what I
Well,
do.
you know what? I think in order to be an effective healer, you have to be open to every possibility. If you're not, if your mind is closed, you're not going to be able to do what you do.
Yeah. And
You
I lost a friend because I was looking at her son and he had an attachment and it was demonic. Now, I didn't say he was possessed. It was just like sitting on him and I took care of it. I don't believe in that stuff. And she works in this industry, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in possession. And it's like, I never said that, but
Right.
she hasn't spoken to me since. So, some
Right.
people are extra sensitive.
They are. They are. Well, and I think for me, I know I was talking to somebody and they said, I don't want to hear that I have demons on me. I don't want to hear that shit. And the way I like to explain it to people, the best way I can explain it to people is you're just looking at a certain level of frequency and it happens to be a really crappy one that nobody wants
There you go.
to
That's a
be
great way to
on.
explain it.
It's you go into this, like, for me anyway, the Catholic terminology, and you think, it's like what's this thing coming, and it's like if it's a level of frequency that it's just in the basement. It's in the basement of the basement of the basement. Like you just don't want to be dealing with it.
Yeah, and I find that most stuff that gets attached to people are what I would call waywards. They
Yeah.
just didn't get to where they were going, and so they're hanging out in the universe, jumping on whoever.
Yeah,
So
exactly. But what I think is really interesting too is, I was telling somebody this, when you have something like I'm having my temporary bad luck with my business. But people have, I read for people and it'll be like, oh, it's been like this my whole life. It's ever since I was born, I have bad luck with women, bad luck with men. I don't get along with certain types of people. I've always felt this weight on my chest. I've always been sick. I've always had this. And this is the kind of stuff you really work well with.
yeah, it is. Because well, first of all, I believe everybody.
Yeah,
I've heard some of the strangest stuff you've ever heard in your life, and I'm like, okay, let's have a look.
yeah,
And generally there's an explanation. It's ancestral, or it is attachments, or it is that mindset. Now, I am not a huge law of attraction fan. I don't, because it creates toxic positivity and spiritual bypassing and stuff that
It does.
I'm just not. I've had people that can't make their list of what they want to work on because they don't want to write down what might be wrong with them. I mean, it's been
Right.
just taken to such a level, um, but if you have that level of mindset, again, your vibration is way down here, and you're coming in contact with all these other things. One of the things I measure in people is light score,
Yes.
and your light score is 100, and so you know 50, 60 is okay. It's not great, and you're going to be better with 100% light score. You get down to 35 and below, and you're really in attachment level stuff.
So I have to tell you this. I have to say this. So after you did that, we had that session and you were doing the light score stuff and you did some for a few other people that weren't very high. Uh I thought, I gotta check this. So I get my pendulum out and I was like, I'm checking everybody's light scores. I'm checking everybody, I'm checking my mom, I'm checking everybody. I gotta make sure I'm dealing with people that are at least, 60 and up. I'm so you've got me on this thing. Unknowingly, you have got me on this thing where I'm like, I'm checking everybody. Nobody's getting in the door unless they're at a certain level.
Yep. And there's another one called divine path score. You could say, what's my divine path score for moving to Nevada or for moving to Maryland?
That's
And it would be
interesting.
different. And I don't want you to make decisions based on that, but it is good input.
Yeah.
Like my friend was 96 and they were trying to figure out a gastro doc that would work on him. And so, I could take and figure out which was the highest and best person to work on him.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
And you can say, what's the divine path score of this relationship? That's a good question.
Yeah,
So,
those see, that's the kind of stuff I love. I love it. It's like it's sort of fun. It's very fascinating, But I think you also get really good answers out of it. By the way, two things, Debbie. Number one, I want to say congratulations on your sobriety because that's amazing.
oh, thank you.
That's really amazing. The other thing I want to say is I would very much like to put you on my website as a preferred practitioner if you're okay with that.
Oh, I would love that.
For Third Eye Champagne viewers only, Debbie has a promo code for you guys, so you can book with her. They're going to book through the website, which I will be putting. You should be seeing it now at the bottom of your screen, or maybe somewhere over there. But you're going to see it. So if you go to this website, you're going to put in this promo code, and the promo code is
Auntie 15.
Auntie 15, AUNTIE, all caps 15. That's going to show up on your screen here too, somewhere in there, somewhere around here. You're going to do that and you're going to be able to book with Debbie. If Debbie is booked, Debbie has some other people over there that does the same thing, different. They also do different things. I checked the website out. I mean, you got people that are doing a lot of stuff over there.
Yeah.
But
And
if
that
she's
that
booked,
gets you two things. You get a remote, I mean, you get a one-on-one session with somebody you choose.
Mhm.
Um, and you also get one, either a remote or a download. If you look at remote sessions and there's downloads you can purchase and stuff like that, you get one of those. So
That's
like
amazing.
Scott is does good work, but he's all remote. You get a report.
Mhm.
You don't sit with him. So
Right. Which is
and then I have
completely
attachment.
different.
And if you use that code for Alice balancing or Dallas House sound codes, that's about $40 that you're gonna save.
That's
So,
really nice.
and it's a one-time 15% off of two different things.
For you guys only, thank you, Debbie. That's incredibly generous. I can't recommend Debbie enough. Um, I will say this, and feel free to use this as a testimonial anywhere you want. But I have had now Debbie had to clear a bunch of shit off me, but listen, I've been through the ringer. So and I was in the hospital, and God knows you pick up a lot of crap in the hospital. That is like an energetic hellhole. I'm sorry. They're just
Yeah, absolutely. Doctor's offices, hospitals, veterinary places are the
yep,
best place to pick stuff up. And also those are in part what made you so sick.
yeah.
So it works both ways.
Yeah. Well, I was telling somebody this about the hospital. I said, you have to think about this. Not only do you have sick people in there, you got people fighting for their lives, but you have people being born and dying every day in that building, multiple people. And the kind of energy it takes to birth and to die is such massive energy that it's like those places can be real wonky energetically. Not saying good or bad, but there's so much energy going on in the building. And they're not clearing those buildings. There is no hospital on the planet Earth that is like, okay, we better call somebody in to clear this, but no. So the energy is just
Right.
sitting in there. But anyway, once she cleared all the stuff off and she offered me the in-person session, I said, yeah, well, not in person, but Zoom. I said, yeah, let's do it. I'd make sure she wasn't a lunatic. She wasn't, so we were all good. And
I'm
I
so thrilled you had me checked on me yourself and gave me that info. I love it.
it's not my first rodeo.
Oh,
So
I know. In this day and age, yeah,
but I feel like myself for the first time in maybe 18 years. 18 years. 18 years.
that
And
makes me so happy.
it's a profound shift. And I found this, I see a bunch of different healers. I have about three or four that I've seen over the years, and everybody's good at something different, and everybody's good at finding different things. Everybody kind of has their little niche. So is Reiki Dave going to clear an entity? No. But is Reiki Dave going to heal up my intestines? Yes. You know what I mean? Everybody has their thing that they're really really good at. And Debbie gifted me with one of the most profound healings I've ever had. Um, so I highly recommend her, and I highly recommend you take advantage of the promo code and everything. What they're doing over there, was it HHH Collective, right? Collective
HHcollectivewellness.com.
Wellness. Thank you. Uh, it's even the website feels good. Like I went to the website and I was like, yeah, like I was like, yeah, good vibes. So check them out. I just think what you're doing is so. First of all, it's really interesting to me because it's unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. And watching you work was fun. It was fascinating. It was effective. And I think people, they think it might be scary or it might hurt, or like you said, they might have to relive trauma. And it's, let me tell you guys, it's not like that at all. um Debbie is so effective at putting you at ease and getting you comfortable, and then she just goes and she starts doing her thing. And I think what I really like about it is you don't dwell on shit. You're just like, it's bam, okay, we're clearing it.
Boom,
Bam,
boom,
okay,
boom,
yeah,
boom.
yeah.
Yep.
It's not like, oh, you have this and it probably came from here and it may have done this and this, that, and then, well, it's connected over here. Cause like you said, people start to dwell in that energy, and then it like, it's harder to clear because you're giving it so much attention.
Exactly.
So you guys, highly recommend Debbie. I feel like, honestly, I feel like you reached out to me by the grace of God. So um
Because you followed your guides and said it out
yeah,
loud on
yeah.
Zoom.
They were so pushy. And that's usually I'm like, no, I will tell them to F off all the time. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And eventually, like they know if they get really pushy with me, I'm like, okay, it must be important. All right, I'll do it, but I'm not happy about it. But sometimes they let me get away with it. Sometimes they say, I'm not doing that. And they're like, okay. You know, but with this, they
Yep.
were very insistent. So Debbie, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
your time, your attention.
I
Um,
appreciate the testimonial and the beautiful words, and I'm so happy you're better. I
I,
just
you
can't
know,
tell you.
I'm serious. Use that testimonial wherever you want. If you want to write it down, type it out, throw it up on the website or whatever, please use it. And if you want me to do Google review or anything like that, let me know, because I experienced such a profound shift. And I think I know you say you're not a gifted healer, but I'm saying you're a gifted healer. And people need to know.
Okay.
People need to
Yeah,
know.
I just try to say, I paid for to learn all this stuff, and I'm also not psychic. A lot of people are like, want to ask me psychic questions or just fix whatever needs to be fixed in me. And I'm like, no, this is the reason for the list because
Right,
I can't scan you or do any of that stuff. So
right, exactly.
that's what
Exactly.
people are like you are for.
Right. Well, and the muscle testing, I was watching you do it, when you were working on me, and it was validating stuff that I had already thought. So when you were getting yes or no answers, I was like, yep, yep, okay, like we're all on the same page here. So it's an incredibly effective way of getting the information that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. All right, Debbie, thank you so much. You guys,
Thank
I'm
you.
sure that you have all the information on Debbie. I think we're gonna try to get her back on the show because I feel like she has some weird stories to tell, and I wanna
Okay.
I wanna hear them. But
And the way I got to where I am is going and then saying yes. So don't know what those stories would be, but okay.
um, you guys, I do love you. I do adore you. I am your biggest cheerleader. I'm obviously also Debbie's biggest cheerleader today. Thank you so much for being here and be well.